Hello, wonderful world. It's Jennifer here at Eureka Astrology and Healing. And today we're going to be talking about the Aries new moon total solar eclipse. This is going to happen on April 8th at 1:20 p.m. Central Standard Time. And as always, adjust your clock accordingly to where you live. And as always, this is a general forecast. If you're interested in knowing more about it and how it affects your chart, you can always book a reading with me at eurekaastrologyhealing.com for the year ahead or just some insights into your birth chart. With that, we're going to talk about the notables, as I always do, because I only do these videos once every 2 weeks. And so I like to make little points or notes of certain things that I find kind of worthy of bringing up, because as always, these charts are not static. Things are moving, turning, spinning, connecting, disconnecting. And I think it's important for people to kind of understand the energies that may lead up to, in this case, the chart that we're talking about, in this case, an eclipse. So with that, the notables. The first thing that I saw was quite important since the last video that I did was that Mercury went retrograde and is currently during this new moon retrograde, and it is in Aries, so it's going to be adding to the Aries energy, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But when Mercury goes retrograde, remember, it's not bad or good. It looks like it's going backwards in the sky. It's not really going backwards. There's not really such a thing in space. But how it's interpreted is that it's actually closer to the planet, and it's actually stronger energy coming in, bringing more Mercury energy. And so you'd think, oh, that's great, right? More communication. Well, you have to remember, just like internet or other things, if you only have so much bandwidth and there's way more, like say trying to go through, in that case, that's what that's like. Like, all right, how is this getting through? It's not, it's just frying the circuit, or it's not getting through at all. So that's one way of thinking about it. And I can speak from personal experience. I have Mercury stationed in Pisces, probably the hardest place for it to be in its hardest possible aspect, meaning there's almost too much. There's so much, how I would give an example too is like there's so much information going on and quick and fast and just how I'm talking, but then like stopping. There's more ideas and more words going through my head than my mouth can get out. And it also can't sift through them because it's so much. And so when Mercury is retrograde, there's a lot of miscommunication, and there is often a lot of tech issues because it's just too much. So be mindful of that. And it's also a review. So in Aries, a review of what you need, right? Review of how you're maybe standing up for yourself in the world, and how you're moving through the world as an individual with like just core needs, core wants. Are you maybe being a little too inconsiderate when Aries kind of gets a little amok, just doesn't think about anybody? Maybe you have to think about other people. So just something to think about. And we'll be feeling that for a little bit. The next thing, so that's April 1st when it goes retrograde. And then April 4th is when Venus moves into Aries. So notice I just said Mars is in Aries right now, and Venus is in Aries, and it's a new moon. So the sun and the moon is in Aries, which is going to build it up into what we're talking about here. But so Venus is shifting from a place where it's very comfortable, which is Pisces. It's dreaming, it's visioning, it's sleeping, it's enjoying itself. Like it's like laying in a inflatable tube going down the river or the ocean, just like chilling with your koozie, like your food, snacks, your beverage of choice. And all of a sudden, like you get dumped out of this beautiful raft and onto this dry, deserted island where there's like nothing but sand and hot heat, because that's very Aries, right? And all of a sudden you have to survive. And so Venus is about desire, and Venus is not like getting dumped on the sand here. And so all of a sudden we're kind of waking up out of that little bit of like a coast there of our desires. And it's like, oh, how do we want to survive here? Like we need to do this, and desiring, putting our needs first so we can survive. It's not bad, but it's a lot more uncomfortable. And so this really brings us into my next notable, is that that's 4 planets in Aries. Now, not only are there 4 planets in Aries, we have Chiron, so the wounded healer, the asteroid of the wounded healer, and then we have the north node of the moon. So the north node of the moon brings in energy. Chiron is where we're wounded. That is a whole lot of Aries, and that's going to really be woven into this chart. It's just like So to give it a description as far as energy, before we talk about like the story or the archetypal story that I see going on with this chart, it's hot, it's fast, it's trust your instincts, go now. And it might also feel like survival. Like you might feel like you're running 1,000 miles a minute and just going, because Aries is all about that drive. And like we have our thoughts there, our desires there, our solar, the sun is there shining light on it solely. The feelings there. The North Node is bringing in extra energy. It's just kind of intense. And so you can probably see themes of people being a little hot-headed, maybe a little combative, but also people like speaking their needs, being direct and blunt and just doing it. This might be a good time to really feel your instincts and then go with them. I wouldn't start something on the day of the eclipse because it's an eclipse, right? So endings, maybe like a couple days later or something where you realize what you have to let go to start something new. But we'll talk about more about that later. Then the last thing I did want to note about this is the shape of this chart. And I don't have it up, so I can't show you. But the planets, you know, because if you have a circle, they can be like all over the place, dipple-dabbled. Well, on this chart, there's just a chunk of planets like that in a slip, you know, and it looks like a bucket. There's just this kind of C shape going on. And opposing all of them, it's not a planet. It is the South Node in Libra. And so what they would say is like, that's the handle, like that little planet over there. It's the bucket to the whole, or the handle to the bucket. And it's, you know, people have this in their chart, but usually what that means is that handle, what's that little thing that's, if it's a planet or whatever's opposing it, everything's kind of, I don't want to say riding on it, but it's swinging on that hinge. And it's in Libra, so that's the opposing energy of Aries. And I have a little quote, which will, I feel like, kind of bring this into perspective and bring it into the chart as how I'm going to read it. And it's from Yogi Tea. Thank you, Yogi Tea. I was making this tea before I was writing about this chart, and I thought, well, this is actually kind of, you know, divine information from the universe. And it says, when your inner and outer worlds harmonize, your relationships do too. And so Aries is about the self. Libra is about the other and can deal with relationships. And so what do we have here? All this energy in self and instinct and need and this primal, like, I gotta stay alive. And then relationships with other. And so what is this calling for? Yeah, everything's kind of hinging on relationships, but really, what are our relationships to others? I know I've said this a lot, but our relationship to ourselves. So something I think that's important that I kind of missed while I was originally looking at this chart is like, what is your relationship to yourself? What is your relationship, and specifically with an Aries, to your needs? How are you working with them? Are you going after them? Are you asking for them? Are you negating them? Are you asking for too many of them? By that meaning just saying, like, going and say you're talking to a partner and say, I need this, and then never talking to, you know, like having a dialogue with the partner and saying like, it's all these or nothing. And I mean, there's debate about that and how relationships go, but sometimes we can all get a little bit, ask for a little too much if we get locked into like, I have to have everything or nothing. And Aries can be a little bit like that, where it's like my way or the highway, where Libra is not. So what's your relationship to yourself and your core needs and your courage? That's a big question. Now, moving into the chart, and I was thinking about this and looking at different degrees and thinking about what the moon's name was, which is the infant's moon from Raven Caldera's Moon Phase Astrology. It's very aptly named, you know, so the sun and the moon are together. So it's that new energy, right? So even though there's an eclipse, there's a real strong air of a new beginning, a rebirth almost. And what makes it stronger is Aries already is the infant. Put the moon there, it's like a double infant, just like ready for the world. And I think that that's very, very powerful because, so if we kind of take a step back and go, like, we're kind of being rebirthed, they're asking to be rebirthed. What's not, I don't say dying, right? But this is an eclipse, right? Letting go of. An eclipse is a letting go of for that new beginning. What are we being asked to let go of? And I think personally, there's quite a few points I have kind of sussed out here, but the cynicism we have of what we've gained through our experience through the living. Like, and this can be around a lot of things, like the Aries themes. Like maybe you didn't ask for what you needed when you needed to, and you got jaded in that with relationships or just people in general. Maybe there was a challenge that came to you that you did not rise to, and then you felt like weak and powerless, and somehow your power got negated there because you didn't get courageous. Just like the cynicism overall of like trying and failing, or that could be another thing. Like maybe you did rise to the challenge and you failed and go like, well, see, now that's how it always goes. You know, trying to let that go, let it go, because this infant has brand new eyes. We are being asked to see things in a brand new way and to drop that baggage. I have literally in my notes continuously written down, let it go. Like, let it go, let it go. Like, this is not the wounded warrior. No way, no how. That's later Aries moons, where the warrior kind of learns and kind of gets burned a little bit and like has to kind of take a step back. This isn't about step backs. It's like going forward. And if anything, it's much like the Fool card in Tarot, where it's like, I'm stepping off this bridge. I'm not even thinking about it. Boom, into the water. Boom, off the cliff. Like, without fear, without reservation, with brand new eyes. And, you know, the idea is that hopefully they land and have a successful landing because they had the courage to do it. The other thing we could let go of too, because what this moon can bring up is some of our infantile behaviors, right? It's a young baby. And so maybe where are we getting infantile, especially around where we're wounded? In some of the instances I just explained, also too, because Chiron, remember that wounded healer, that little asteroid I was talking about in Aries, it is exactly, when I look at the chart here, it's kind of amazing. It is in the exact degree and minute of this new moon. It is right there. Our wound as a collective first, because Chiron, you know, slow moving, for the collective and ourself is going like, where do you need to stand up for yourself? Where do you need to be courageous? And maybe it's not for yourself. Maybe it's for a larger cause. I do not know. That's why you take a look at your chart. But it's like, where do you need to stand up? And where do you need to let go of immature behaviors, those old wounds? Because they are not going to work. Because it's just baggage that's going to weigh you down. You want the fresh eyes, because if you come at it, say you do use this eclipse to let go of all these things I just talked about. That's a very positive way of using it. What can come in next is courage to move forward, right? The courage to see new possibilities, and also really feeling your instincts, not doubting them, being like, yeah, because Aries is all on instinct. You know, it feels it in its core. If you get a gut feeling, trust it. And it's opening you up to these new possibilities around you, and almost like a fresh start, if that makes any sense. I'm not saying things don't have to be let go of. Absolutely. And that's really the biggest theme that I see here, is to kind of let go of the hurt and be open to the new, with new ways of seeing things, because you might shape new beliefs, new routines, new ways of speaking, right? The Mercury's retrograde, new desires, because Venus is in there as well. And just like, the wound never heals, but then you learn, it's like, oh, yeah, I really did get burned in that situation. But when I look back at it, there was a valuable lesson. Yeah, maybe it sucked, but like, I'm not there anymore, right? Like, not sitting in that wound and being like, what did I learn? How can I use this in a positive way? And use it as your medicine, instead of using it as something that stays open and festering, you know, that you can share. Medicine that you can share, not toxins. There's two other strong aspects as I look at the chart here. And it's important, I want to make a note of not being, make sure at this time, there's an energy here being potentially lulled into getting detached from reality and everyday living. That's the degree of the new moon, actually, the 19 degrees. But also we have Saturn and Mars about to conjunct. That's so notable that I didn't say, in Pisces, are two malefics. You know, I don't want to say they're two bad boys, but like, things can feel a little weighty with that. And they're in Pisces, and both of them are like, what am I doing in this like la la land, dreamland? And on the most positive, they can be helping us get to our dreams. The Saturn, like hunkering down, creating the foundation. Mars going for it. But like, Saturn is trying to figure out what materials will stay put in Pisces. Like, how can I keep, like, you know, the earth put together when the water keeps washing away? And Mars is just trying to find a path. So like, there's a little bit of confusion. They're coming together, they can bring that dream into reality, as there is still some positive energies coming from Taurus, not exact, but it can also feel like a little too hard for us. Maybe we're like, oh, this is just too hard. The dream's too hard. I just need to escape. Like, I'll get lost on the path and let the foundation wash away. Or maybe there's a contention between the two. Like, the foundation, the house that you're building is not on the road. And so you have to walk like 20 miles to get to your house off the road. So try not to do that. Try not to get straight off the path or put your head in the sand. Use it to be constructive in building the dream. And another notable that I didn't say, but Jupiter is getting close to conjuncting Uranus and Taurus. And that energy is going to be felt. Like, so big change. That's how that's basic. And this is in the earth element, so it could be around money, around the actual planet Earth, earthquakes. And that's just like broad. This is very, 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 very broad. But, Jupiter expands and Uranus brings in the change. So that should be interesting. It's not exact, but they're like 3 degrees away, 2 degrees away. That's pretty close. So this is a dynamic new moon. And would anyone say, is it a good chart or a bad chart? I would just say it's an intense chart. Like I said, there's a lot of fire, there's a lot of passion, there's some water in there, bringing in the steam. So watch for intense, passionate feelings. But again, try to step back and let go of all those kind of hurts and pains and see this world with new eyes, because I think there's really lots of good possibilities. My question was, do you approach the pending shift that's going to happen here with fresh eyes, or are you going to come out with a jaded mind? You choose. You get to choose. And I wish nothing but the best of changes. May they be gentle as they can be, and that your heart and mind stay open to the new possibilities. With that, I'm Jennifer at Eureka Astrology and Healing. May the stars guide you and the plants ground you. Ciao for now.